Without being taught, you know how to move through the world. You know the difference between a temple and a courtroom, between a wedding and a traffic signal, between a barber shop and a voting booth. You know how to act in each of these situations. Each asks something different from you, and you adjust almost without thinking. Every domain has its proper mode of participation. You absorb it, you attune to it. Every room has a logic, every institution has a way of entry, a way of being. But reality itself, the ground of all rooms, all institutions, that we enter without any attunement at all. I mean, nobody asks what is the proper way to be in cosmos. We know what is the proper way to be in a wedding or in a police station or in a court, but what is the proper way to be in reality itself? And the question is whether you will ever use this capacity of attunement, of adjusting to be comfortable towards the one thing that contains everything else, reality itself. Can you be attuned to reality? Can you be comfortable, well placed in reality by knowing how to be? What is the proper ethics to be in cosmos itself? You know, pre-Socratic Greek philosopher Heraclitus lived 500 years before Jesus, and he only wrote one book. And after writing the one book, he withdrew from public life. The book have not survived, almost. We have few sentences preserved. I was reading one of these fragments of Heraclitus, and one of them states this actual problem directly of how to be. It's in Greek, and I quote in English: the logos is common to all, yet most people live as though they have a private understanding. You see, logos is the cosmic intelligence, an intelligence which tells you how to be in cosmos, how to be with reality. And that cosmic understanding is transpersonal, is not personal. It doesn't work with your whims. There it exists. The cosmic mind exists. Heraclitus wondering is that how come this cosmic mind exists? This logos exists. This a perfect way to be in reality exists, and still people live in their own private world. You see, it's like there is a way to be in a courtroom. It exists. The rules exist. But suppose people just go into courtroom and start dancing, start singing, because they think that is their private interpretation of how one should be in a courtroom. It doesn't work. You see, you will be thrown out, or maybe you will be jailed. So the point is that this universal logos exist, and he wonders, yet people live in their private reality like it is real. One more fragment which confirms this point even further. I quote, for the waking, there is one common world, but when asleep, each person turns away to a private one. Sleeping, he means a sleeping man, according to him, can walk, can talk, can have babies, can act rationally in the world, can perform human duties given by society. But he is a societal citizen, not a cosmic citizen. He is not a being, he is human, but not being, because only being, only human who is worthy of being called being is the human who live in logos, not in his private world of his own make-believe, who understands, listens, and aligns himself with the logos itself. That person is awake. He is living in one common reality, as Heraclitus says. The sleeping one, when they are asleep, they live in their private reality. He is just taking this example of sleep and waking, and he is taking it a step further in the real waking life. Actual sleep, we see our own dreams, our own fancies we imagine, but when we wake up, we share the same reality, or as we think, because Heraclitus says even when we wake up, we don't share the same reality. Only few people live in logos. Logos is a cosmic logic, a cosmic way of being in reality itself, and most people never realize it. They are asleep. They live inside their own private world, and then they wonder why reality is hurting me, why I'm suffering. If you are going to dance and sing in a courtroom, you are going to be in trouble. Or if you are going to argue on traffic signals like you are an advocate, you are going to be in trouble. You see this, there is always a right way to be in every situation, but we never ask a question, what is the right way to be in reality itself? And that is what Logos is. This cosmic intelligence. In Sanskrit, they call it Ratam. R-T-A-M, Ratam, out of which the word Ritu comes, or the English word rhythm comes. This root Sanskrit word Ratam only comes out of Satyam, which is not truth as an epistemology, not truth as some linguistical fact, but truth as existence itself, existence as truth. Being as such is true, and the being loves to conceal himself. True being loves to hide himself. And what it represents, while the real being is hiding, what it represents is the world itself. And we live according to this structure of world, of institution, of society, of language, of history, of tradition, of morality, of biology, but never ever find out and unconceal the real being of this cosmos, which is one with your being itself. Atman is Brahman. You see, your own self is the self of cosmos, but we never live in that reality. We only live in our own private world, as Heraclitus says, and that astonishes him. Like, how come people live in their own private world and never awaken to the cosmic logos? And billions of people can turn away together to the same private world and mistake their agreement for truth. So what he means by logos, you can refer to Martin Heidegger. He spent years understanding these few sentences. Logos, Heidegger says, is not reason, it's not language, it's not logic in mathematical sense. The Greek root legin means to bind together, lay things together so they can appear as what they are. The logos is the primordial gathering, if you may. You know, the structure by which reality discloses itself. As I say, being hides himself and only discloses himself when you attune to being. It is not a theory you adapt. It is not a belief you hold. It is what is already happening before you form any view about reality. That is logos. Heraclitus also says, not to me but to logos. Listen. He's saying don't listen to Heraclitus, an individual. Listen to what is already disclosing itself through this body, he says. The logos is not his. It belongs to the structure of reality. It's common. It's not his personal property. If you think about the word gathering, gathering in the ordinary sense means collecting things one by one, assembling. And how are you going to gather everything together? Because to make a decision about how to act in reality right now, you need to evaluate entirety of cosmos, entirety of past, entirety of future, in order to decide what is the right way to be right now. And your little mind cannot gather the whole, it can only gather part, and then mistake the part for the whole. That is the sleeping world. You see, when we are partially awake to partial reality which is in front of us, and then we think this is what real is, this partial rational understanding of reality is a kind of sleep. And the question is, how do you gather everything right now, second by second? Not possible by mind, not possible by thinking, but everything is already being gathered into the ground of reality itself. Being itself, Sat, is the root cause of all the ratam, all the movement is coming out of this absolute ground of reality. If you attune yourself to that ground of reality, as Lao Tzu says, you know, the way, if you follow the way of Tao, nothing bad happens to you. At Tao, the following the way. What is the way? It is in north, in south, in east, in west, particular doing in this career, in that career. No, the way of being, the Tao. Cosmos doesn't know any career. Cosmos knows the way of being. So not being human, but way of being. I know language breaks here, you see. The closest I can say is to be in the way of yoga is the way to be in cosmos. How to be in yoga? Well, yoga chitta vritti nirodhate. As what all of this point toward is the same understanding arrived from the different direction, named in different languages, across traditions. Being is not a noun, not a position you hold, not a fixed point to defend. Being is a way to be in the reality, in the cosmos, a mode of participation, an openness that moves with the whole because it has stopped insisting on being separate from it. As I said, the Vedic tradition named this twice. The Ratam, first, the dynamic cosmic order, the pattern of flowing, the logos of how things move, and the Sat, the pure being, the fullness that simply is, unchanging, prior to all motion, source of all motion. These are not two different realities. Ratam is how Sat moves. The flux is how being appears. To live in Ratam, in the cosmic rhythm, is to be attuned to the movement. To rest in Sat is to be grounded in what doesn't move, in that which doesn't move, both at once. That is what waking looks like. Most people don't even notice their failure because the cosmos doesn't send a guard to escort you out. Well, it sends Yamaraja, but not immediately. So you already know how to attune. You do it every time you walk in a room. You read the atmosphere and the logic of the space. You adjust according to it. You enter. You participate in the common world of societal domain. The question is whether you will ever attune that same capacity, use that same capacity of attunement towards the domain that contains all domains, towards cosmos itself, towards reality itself. One more quote from Heraclitus to close. He says, though this logos is forever, man failed to comprehend it, both before hearing about it and after. End quote.